info is protected, there are other places that also have it, and they may not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed, or your money back. Save 40% your first year with my name Clay as the promo code at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Violence doesn't just affect individuals. It impacts families, neighborhoods, and our whole community. UChicago Medicine is committed to prevention, intervention, and healing. From youth engagement to violence recovery and trauma resiliency, they understand that collaborating and coordinating with community-led approaches helps create safe spaces, strategies, and brighter futures. This summer, let's make safety and wellness a shared priority. Be alert, be safe, because a safer summer starts with all of us. UChicago Medicine at the forefront.
It's the Wake Up Show with the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce on Chicago's essential storyteller, WVON.
Welcome to the Wake Up Show, Chicago.
Rise and shine. It's the Wake Up Show, where every sunrise is a call to action. Powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, we are the champions of change, advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the world of corporate and government contracting. It's not just a show, it's a movement. So get ready for another dynamic journey as we wake up the world to a new era of opportunities and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, President Larry Ives.
Good morning, Chicago. I'm LaDonna Ray of Ray Consulting, and I am a proud member of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Wake Up Show, Chicago. This show is powered by the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, also known as ILBCC, and sponsored by the lovely Wind Creek Casino Southland. Each and every Saturday morning, we come on to WVON at 9 a.m. And we're coming to you live on WVON 1690 AM, Facebook Live, WVON, and Wake Up Show Chicago. And we're streaming everywhere in the world on iHeartRadio. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and just look for Wake Up Show Chicago. Hit the subscription button. It's totally free. Now, as you know, I am co-host to the wonderful CEO and president of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And also, he is the chairman of the board and the National Black Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C. Dr. Larry Ivory is coming via telephone this morning. How are you, Dr. Ivory?
LaDonna Ray, I am doing just fine, and always a great opportunity for us to come on WVON and talk about what we talk about. So I'm excited about today and looking forward to getting into some real conversation.
I love it. And joining us this week, and some of the weeks he joins us anyway, none other than my co-assistant producer, a man of many talents in the media and entertainment, Lorenzo T. Hughes. Good morning. Your mic is not on. He said good morning, y'all. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna circle back to you. We'll make sure that your mic is on. But Larry, there's so much going on with the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. I heard Dorothy Tillman earlier talking about the big beautiful bill, and she said it's the big beautiful black bill. And we have to take time to actually read this bill because people are taking sound bites and bits and pieces. But in all of this that's happening, the chamber is still working no matter which bill is on the table, no matter which laws are being passed, no matter what contracts are being overlooked. The chamber is constantly working. And we have our business conference coming up in September. Um, I wanted to talk to you about how to balance all of this because a lot of our members of the chamber, they have their businesses, they have their families, some of them have jobs as well. Work-life balance has been quite the discussion throughout the Black community, especially when you're trying to have a business. But being able to lean on the chamber itself, why don't you give us a little history of the chamber? Because some people are just not clear on when we actually got started.
Well, LaDonna, my pleasure. The chamber was started back in 1997 is when we officially incorporated in 1997. And we've been focused on helping Black businesses take their business to the next level. And we do that through a number of things that we do in reference to, you know, if a member joins us, we kind of identify what's their current situation. We ask them what's their biggest challenges, and then we go to work to try to help them overcome those challenges and take their business to the next level. And that could be any array of things. We also do a lot on the policy side and advocacy. We meet with corporations and work with them so that our members can have access to companies, whether it be utility companies, whether it be major corporations, or whether it be agencies like Illinois Department of Transportation, CTA, Capital Development Board. So our goal and objective is to really become the partner, and I would call it a partnership because fundamentally the chamber is working for you to help you do what you need to do to take your business to the next level. But we've been around since 1997 when we officially kicked off. But before we were there, we had the Peoria Chamber, which was started back in 1985, and then morphed into the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce.
So you've been
So
at
that's a
this
little.
a long time. This is 1997. I was just out of high school, just a few years before that, and you were already hitting the pavement. What were the? I think that you had a different. You said of Peoria, but were you also known as any different names?
Yeah, we were known the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, and when we first got started, we were the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce was our official name that we used, DBA, and so we were, and even before that, we were kind of the Phoenix organization, but we've been the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce since 1997.
Yeah. And the proclamation that was given by John Kerry or Senator John Kerry at the time, what year was that?
That was 2005 when John Kerry, if you go on YouTube, you'll hear him talk about the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. He was the chair of small business on Capitol Hill. That was in 2005, where he talks about the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce and Larry Ivory and how proud he is of the work that we've done on small business. And we've worked with every political official you can think of. Durbin is signing, he's retiring, and someone else will be in his place. But, we work with Senator Durbin. We worked with most of the political figures throughout the 30 years.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, working with them to help move Black business agenda. And one of the key things I think, LaDonna, is that we try to point out to people things that people don't give a lot of thought to. And as an example of that, we often don't hear the statistical data that points to the fact that even though our demographics show that we are a specific portion of a city, of a community, when we take a look at our participation from the contractual side and business side, our numbers fail in comparison. So there's significant disparity when it comes to our numbers from a demographic point of view. Say, for example, like you would say in a city where you may have a 25% Black population. And what people don't recognize is that you'd be surprised that in most cases, African American businesses are doing probably 1.5%. of the opportunities as it relates to the demographics and their participation.
And Larry, let me ask you this question. What was going on, at that time in small business in 1985 and 1987? What was going on and what was not going on at that time that moved you into your movement with the chamber? What was going on at that time, and has that changed at all today? How has that changed?
What was happening at that time when I got involved with the chamber was that there's always been this sense of lack of economic justice in the Black community. And when I got involved, many years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be mentored by the great late Dr. Arthur Fletcher, the father of affirmative action, the guy who coined the phrase, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." And he was the author of affirmative action. And so when I got involved, it was apparent that when you worked with the Chamber of Commerce, the traditional Chamber of Commerce, they had little or no Black representation on their within their organization, on their board. And so if we were not at the table, we were on the menu. And so, as we began to look at those things, Lorenzo, we knew that there was significant challenges for us to be heard and seen, but we couldn't do that if we were waiting for Caucasian people to acknowledge our existence, acknowledge the value that we bring to the table. So we had to create our own venue by which to tell our story. Just like Black media helps to tell the story. Black Chamber of Commerce helps to lead the fight for Black business, for economic reciprocity, for strengthening Black businesses. So we were born out of necessity, quite frankly, because there were significant disparities, and still is significant disparities throughout the country.
Larry, you said you were born out of necessity, and we look at the climate in the current administration or regime, if you will. Do you think that it's time for a new birth, a rebirth, I should say? We almost have to be reborn into this administration in order to tackle it, because we've been talking as a Black community, we've been talking about what we need to do, how we need to fight, how we're fighting. But are we actually seeing progress, or do we need to do some type of rebirth? Now, I'm being the devil's advocate. Of course, I'm a member of the chamber, but I just want our audience to hear what the chamber is doing to adjust and readjust in this current climate.
Well, the first thing, LaDonna, that any organization has to do, it has to have a clear mission and a clear path. And what's interesting about the current climate is that things like DEI is not, and some may argue the fact that DEI did not serve Black business as well as it should have. From its inception, it was really designed for Black people. The Lyndon Johnson signed the executive order because of the civil rights movement, and it was a way of correcting the economic discrimination that existed within the United States of America. And I think that what we've done in terms of pivoting is that even though we have to be aware of what's happening in our country, and we must fight to protect our own interests, just like we should. Politics is about the divide and spoils of war. And when we take a look at anything that takes something from us, then we have to be legitimately concerned about that and decide kind of how we're going to. And I think in this environment, what we have to do is leverage each other in a way that we haven't before, do business with each other, focus on not everything else everyone is doing, but focus on what we can do. How do we create, and how do we go back and create economic independence? How do we go back and strengthen people like the Soul City corridor that's being done in Chicago, where black businesses have a stretch where it becomes just like Chinatown. So I think that it's going to be incumbent for us to understand the noise going on, to be aware of it, and not to bury our heads in the sand, but really begin to focus on how do we strengthen each other's hand in a way that we've never done before. And I think we're going to have to think globally at the same. I think we got to get reconnected to Mother Africa because there's tremendous opportunities and doing business overseas at the same time.
Nice. Well, we have a caller. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the Wake Up Show.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. That's well, almost good afternoon. Good topics. Um, one of the reasons why I could do a whole show. One of the reasons why I became so political in a conservative way was because when I opened my office in the little corner of, I'm in a little part of Bartlett, which is part of Cook County. DuPage County is just to the south, and Kane is out to the west. And I was a kid out of school. It was like 1980, and I just inherited my building in part because of Cook County commercial property taxes. So, long story short, my building went from a tax bill of $7,000 to $27,000 in a period of 20 years. Now, when my taxes were in their mid 20s, my good buddy out in St. Charles, King County, he had a similar property. He was paying about half. So I'm scratching my head and so why is it 20 grand here in Bartlett and why is it 10,000 out in St. Charles? Well, basically, Cook County is run by a bunch of Democrats, and at that time, King County was run by a bunch of Republicans who generally tend to be more business friendly. And the problem is when we don't support politicians that don't allow us to keep our money, or they want to raise taxes, or they, like in the case of Cook County, you can't have a small building, even like a small bank building here is where I'm sitting at right now. They're paying $100,000 for the small building. It's a bank building. It's not real big. And that same building over in Indiana or some other counties would be about 10 or 20 or something. And so this is the problem that we have because we don't support politicians that don't allow business to thrive because their business, they don't think business wise. They think, otherwise.
Thanks,
and
Jim.
and
We're
so
going to have to leave it right there. All right. Larry, you want to respond?
Well, I think anytime you have, that's the great thing about a democracy is that everybody, have their interests, and business has a business interest, and there are some things to be said about the fact that you can go from one place to the other, and you can have higher taxes, and if you have higher taxes, this means that anytime you're paying more in taxes, you're spending less on goods, services, and employment, all the other factors. As to go down the rabbit hole in terms of on a consistent basis, whether Democrats or Republican administration help to reduce taxes, I think there's some points to be made in reference to it, but I'm not certain that just on the basis of taxes from one city to the X, does that necessarily mean that Democrats lack the sensitivity or Republicans have all the sensitivity when it comes to tax fairness or the escalation of tax over a period of time. So, that could be a whole topic of conversation that we
Yeah.
could get into at a different time.
Yeah. Well, Larry, I know originally we had spoke about work-life balance, but you mentioned you had a key word in your mouth. You said leverage each other. And I know that basically you giving us the powerful history behind the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, how it was born, that is like out of a profound necessity for sure. The necessity for advocacy, for economic empowerment, for a voice where there was none. And the original necessity was basically tied to the immense pressure that we were under to do something and go up this uphill battle. I mean, that I think everyone needs to know that we weren't just birthed and we're just a chamber, and now here we are. There were some things that had to be done, and I think some people don't realize that there's still a fight that has to be fought. And now what? That necessity in many ways still exists today. And that's why the upcoming conference that we're having, the name that you said, leverage how to leverage each other, or how to leverage black businesses, and that's in September. So for you to basically mention, let's leverage each other, and then we have this conference that's about leveraging each other. This is where we all come together, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, Ladonna. Anytime you leverage um, anything, it gives you greater ability to accomplish more. And when we take a look at just even our own companies, you know, are we leveraging each other? You know, at the level that we can, have we maximized our potential? And I think in business, you want to make sure that you create more efficiency so that you can become more profitable. If you have systems and process that allow you a chance to produce the goods, services, and products, and you can do it at a much cheaper rate or more efficient, then it means that you're more profitable. Which we're more profitable means that from profitability becomes all the other things that come with it. Because see, if you don't have uh, any excessive income outside of your expenses, then there's not much you can do. It's when you have more income than you have expenses that you're allowed to contribute to colleges, to do other things to help other people, to expand and grow and create all kinds of opportunities. So it's really kind of important to be able to leverage everything around you so that you can do more and make more things happen. And so this conference is really designed, this is like how to leverage black media. You
Hmm.
know, are we leveraging black media and using black media to the full extent that we possibly can? And an example of that, LaDonna and Lorenzo, is that when we have companies or individuals who are not doing the right things or shutting off access and not creating opportunities, then if the only way to get people sometime to change their tactics is to make the community aware of it. The government for the people, by the people, shall not perish. People always have the power. And sometimes, if you have black media and you have something that is adversely impacting black business and black people, you have to be able to create the airways and the conversation like we're doing today. We're leveraging WVON to tell our story to our listeners. But that's just one of many things that we can do when it comes to black media in terms of getting more out of black media, giving more to black media, and black media giving more back to us at the same time. And that's why I'm really proud of Donna, of our team in the black media space, all the talented individuals who've been around for a long time, and some people who've been around for a short period of time. But we're learning how to make that work even better. It's like leveraging AI. That's a tool that can be used very effectively at creating more profitability, because what it would normally have taken you a long time to do, sometimes AI can make it this put the right words in there, and it kicks out something that probably would have took you much more. Well, obviously, would have taken you much time, much longer to put on pen and paper. But AI can do that within a nanosecond, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And Larry, you said something that really stood out to me. You mentioned shutting off access, and it just made me think about when I first started in business, and not having a mentor, and just kind of going at it. I mean, I don't think people understand, like, what it's like for us to deal with, like, the roadblocks that we have to deal with. We have to deal with the narrative of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. while we create obstacles for you to start business. Um, and you mentioned using and leveraging black media. One of the things I would like to see or like to hear is, people who are in business use black media to come in and tell their story of what they're going through right now in business, so that we can hear and understand what ways that we can help them or to help them get started. Because I'm still driving around in a lot of these cities and I see a lot of abandoned commercial businesses, and I know that there's somebody out there that has a vision or has a service that can help someone or can be provided to the communities that's in those areas of boarded up and abandoned buildings.
Yeah,
No,
and we have
absolutely.
Christine Matz, Larry. Christine Matz in our organization. Her son is an expert or a specialist at commercial properties, abandoned commercial properties.
Oh, absolutely. LaDonna and Lorenzo, and to our listening audience, the chamber has 12 standing committees. One of those committees is a construction committee that's headed up by Dr. Ruckers and Boa Construction Company, as well as Aaron Gunn, IDD Architect. We formed that leadership where it focuses on exactly what you're talking about, Lorenzo. You know, leveraging our talents, because if you have a bending uh, properties that need to be repurposed or need to be rebuilt or torn down and build a new facility, you got to have people that can come and do that. Now, you can always go and find someone like to do it, but that doesn't create any revenue in your own community. So what we have to do is really work on building capacity with black contractors. And I dare say that we don't have enough people like your John Boa, even though we have some successful companies on the percentage basis, we need to have more companies with greater capacity that can build, like in some cases, some of our members can build a hospital, they can build all kinds of things, but we don't have enough of those. And so construction on our committee becomes very important. And then when we talk about, leveraging, because at the conference we're going to be inviting the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of Waukegan, and another mayor to speak on a panel, a fireside chat, to talk about, their role. How do we strengthen black mayors, and how do black mayors strengthen black business? Because they get all this vacant lot, which means it's not generating any significant tax revenues. It's important for them to be able to take those lots that they have and make those lots into something better that's not an eyesore, that puts people, that generates more taxes, that gives a person a place to live. So all those things are tied together, and the chamber really focuses on economic development, growth, and strategy, and that's why I love what I do as a chamber president. Is that we're always looking at how do we create the right environment for success and help businesses to grow, and that comes through all kinds of different strategies, Lorenzo.
And you mentioned those vacant lots. And remember, on our VIP cruise that we had, our very successful VIP cruise, I might add, a couple of weeks ago, Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor of the 20th Ward talked about all the vacant lots in her ward alone. She's like, contact me. And she's part of the chamber as well. We have a caller. Hi, Karen. Good morning.
Good morning. Very constructive conversation. Listen, I have a question to ask for those that really know. Our communities do look pitiful. And the reason why they look pitiful is something that I never hear leadership speak about. The TIF funding that we don't get properly sprinkled out to us because too many of the people in charge use it among themselves. So we don't talk about Pangea and how Pangea gained so much wealth over property in the black communities and did one of the biggest transfers of wealth in real estate in 2022, even though they had lawsuits of putting people's water bills attached to their electric bills. And we don't talk about the pass through companies that have allowed rich white boys to use their minority status. Those three things are vital. And that's why we see the emptiness in our communities. And that's also why we see such high property taxes on people that can't afford it. Until we talk about these three entities and really be honest, for those that really know, our communities will continue to look like it looks. So I just say this: anytime we're in a leadership position, which means over these airwaves or standing at the head or anything or putting all these titles, we are responsible for what our people don't know. And between the TIF program, the pass-throughs, and Pangea, we got to work on that. Thank you for taking my call. Have a
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Larry?
Thank you, Karen. Well, she makes, tips, and, the key is that my father used to say, when we know better, we ought to do better. And knowledge is always power, and understanding how the system works. And when we elect officials, we need to hold elected officials accountable for the things that we want to see happen in our community. That's why we have to organize and get connected, because when you have people that vote, when you have people who are engaged, when you got people with knowledge, and you share that knowledge, then you help people to have a different perspective, to see things from a different lens. We have so many challenges. As an example, access to capital is essential to economic growth and development. And most people know clearly is that African Americans has not always been treated fairly when it comes to access to capital by the banks, by institutions. You can take an African American person with the same credit score as a white. They can go into the bank, and this has been proven many times. And that same, with the same credit score, all things being equal, and that white business person will get a business loan and say they got the same background experience, but because of how the system has treated Black people, it sometimes makes it difficult for us to access the capital, because without the capital, it's difficult to achieve the objectives and grow your business. That's why I tell people, look, if you're a business person, you got to have a good relationship with a banker. You got to have 2 or 3 banks that they know you intimately, that you talk to them about who you are, where you're headed, what your business is doing, and how strong you're going to make your business, how you're going to be willing to pay back the loan they give you, the line of credit, whatever the case may be. Then you got to have a good accountant. You got to understand the tax rules and everything. And then you also got to have a good attorney. Those things are essential, I believe. And I can't tell you the number of times when I sit and talk to people that they haven't worked on the capital access, building a relationship with their banker. They haven't spent any time really leveraging the tax codes for their benefit, not cheating the IRS, but really leveraging and taking full advantage of every deduction you deserve to take advantage of. Because if you take advantage of, that's more money in your pocket, which means you got greater access to capital, more money to deploy into your business for research and development, and allows you to grow. So there's so many different things that as Black people, we have to struggle. We just simply have to learn and make it different. And that's why the Chamber becomes important. From my perspective, the Chamber is a place where Black business excellence come together, and we help each other. We help each other to grow. You got people like Robert Johnson. You got so many very talented individuals in marketing, in construction, and every area that you can possibly think of that can help you develop a game plan and help you move your business to the next level.
Yeah. And you mentioned not having that access to capital. We have a caller, but before we go there have been historical reports of banks or financial institutions that have been identified with historical links to slavery, and they won't even give you a loan. So rather than go through the long list, I'll give you a few. There's Chase, there's Wells Fargo, there's Citibank, New York Life Insurance Company, Aetna is on the list as well, Bank of America. But because of this, it's almost a slap in the face. They have profited billions over time, over generations, and we're talking about so many numbers of billions, but they will not consider you for a loan, and that has to be looked into, and that's why we have to be strengthened by someone like the chamber. I'm going to go ahead and grab this caller, Mary Ann. Good morning.
Great morning, LaDonna Ray, and great morning to your guests and the other gentlemen present. And thank you so much. I do listen to your show every day, Miss LaDonna.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
And
Thank you.
you're welcome. I am wondering, I am a business owner. I'm in the travel industry, and I'd like to know, are there many Black multi-level marketers who are members of the chamber?
Larry?
Well, we have some, but we're always looking for more. The chamber is open to every business to bring their talent, to help them grow their business. And when you have travel, because, we travel all the time, Black people travel, entertain. And if we know that you exist and you offer the things that we need, why should we go someplace else when we can come to you if you're a member of the organization? So we help promote you and your business so that Black business people who are successful and those who may not be as successful we can point to you and say, look, hey, if you're getting ready to do some travel and you can go to someone else, go to your members, support your own people, leverage your own people is essential to our own survival. Because as we know, Tulsa and other places, we once used to do that because we had no other choice. And when we did it, bad things happened. And I think we have to get back to doing that, where we invest in each other a lot more than we have in the past. And I'd encourage everybody, no matter who you are, when you get a chance to do business with an African American, be intentional about it. When you invest in each other, you promote your own legacy, you promote your kids' ability to do things, because when Black businesses have money and resources, they're more likely to contribute to things that are essential to African American community than you is someone else who may have a different view and may have a different priority.
Absolutely. Well, we got her information, Larry, just so you know. We made sure that we were on point with that. I want to make sure that we get to our updates in Washington from Phoenix Strategies. As we do every other week, guys. We were trying to do it every week, but sometimes we walk away with a little bit of our head down because we have to kind of pick it back up, right, Greg? We have to pick it back up. So, don't take it too deep, but we gotta know, you know what I'm saying? Hi, Greg from Phoenix Strategies. You are
Hey guys, how you doing, Larry?
yes,
Everybody, how y'all doing?
doing swell.
Hey, that's right, Greg.
What you got for us?
All right, so I just want to give you guys an update on the One Big Beautiful Bill, and what it might mean for us. Some of it can be non-helpful. Some of it can maybe be helpful. So President Trump, he signed into law what's being called the One Big Beautiful Bill, a massive tax package that rewrites key parts of the tax code. Let's get into what that means for us. First, the individual tax brackets, the ones that lowered income taxes in 2017, those are now permanent. The standard deduction that people take is also getting a small increase. It's going to offer some modest relief for most taxpayers, but nothing transformative for working families. The child tax credit is expanded temporarily to $2,500 per child. And for the first time, there's a tax deduction for folks that earn tips on overtime. But I don't know how effective that's going to be the way that I think that it's been structured. But let's talk about business, because that's why we're here. If you're running an LLC, a sole proprietorship, or S Corp, this new law makes permanent the 20% pass-through income deduction. There's also new tax breaks for equipment, research, and startup investments. This could help small business owners that want to reinvest in their businesses to grow. The bill also brings back opportunity zones and extends new markets and low-income housing tax credits. These programs are intended to encourage investment in distressed areas, including some of our neighborhoods. But, we know from past history that often benefits investors more than communities. So we have to be really vigilant about how those things are implemented in our communities. There's also some new savings plans called Trump accounts aimed at those born after 2025, but it's unclear how much that's going to be accessible to our folks. But on the flip side, it makes it harder. This bill makes it harder to deduct charitable deductions unless you get above a certain threshold, which could hurt churches, HBCUs, Black-led nonprofits. It also puts guardrails on how states can handle taxes, which may impact local services over time. So here's the bottom line. This new law is wide-ranging and long-lasting and provides provisions that help small businesses and working families, but it's not designed with us in mind. It reflects kind of the priorities of wealth and ownership, not necessarily equality and equity and opportunity. So let's just stay informed, get proactive, use the things that are positive, and kind of keep an eye on the things that aren't so positive for us.
You mentioned 20% pass through for small businesses. What does that mean?
Oh, so you get to reduce your taxable income by 20%. I think I've used it the last year or two on my taxes. It takes a 20% reduction in your taxable income off the top if you're a pass through, if you're a sole proprietorship, if you're an LLC. So it reduces your taxes significantly, quite frankly. I've used it.
So if you were to claim that your earnings were, let's say 300,000, you would take 20% off of that, and then the rest would be taxable.
Correct.
Okay. So now that almost encourages you to, should I say, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that it encourages you to be honest. Okay. I was trying not to say it that plain, but it encourages you to be honest about your earnings, because some businesses may feel compelled to lower the amount that they've earned. But if you're able to, move more towards the honesty factor and remove take the 20% off. I mean, talk to me about that, because I know there's businesses out there that do that.
Here's the way I would put it. When I was in law school, I took tax law, and the professor said it this way. He said, what's the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance? There's no difference. One is legal, one is illegal.
Okay.
That's the only difference. And so you want to tax avoid to the maximum extent of the law. So that doesn't mean that you're dishonest. It just means that you're taking every available tax break that you can find, and you're categorizing your income in a way that is legally the most beneficial to you.
Thanks for breaking that down. PSA right here.
So is that what Trump did? You and they talked about his taxes. Did he tax avoid or tax evade?
Well, look, there's a fine line.
I see.
I think that maybe he figured out a way how not to get caught, but there's a fine line. And look, I'm not a tax professional. Consult with your tax professional.
Right. As you should. All right, Greg. Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. You or someone from Phoenix Strategies. Tell us, just like in 1 minute, tell us about Phoenix Strategies.
Phoenix Strategies is a full service lobbying firm, government affairs firm. We manage some of the largest associations in Black business, and we also take on individual clients who have individual needs that need to go before Congress. So we're happy to be there for anybody that is interested in advancing a government affairs goal in Washington, D.C.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Hey, Greg, before you leave, Greg, give us the numbers. I always want to hit these numbers. Give us the numbers of blacks doing business with the federal government in comparison to whites because I know you know the numbers. What's the number? What does that say?
So I don't have the numbers in terms of individual businesses. What I do have is the number, the amount of money that we get. So on the federal level, black folks are getting about 1.5% of the federal procurement dollars. So that's around $8 or $9 billion a year. Hispanics are about 1.7. White small businesses, I think, are somewhere around 14%, and the rest goes to big business. So even with the programs that we have, the 8A, the stuff that they're taking away, we weren't making a whole lot of money anyway. That's an area of growth that we need to get involved in because, as you know, Larry, the largest purchaser on the planet is the federal government, the United States federal government.
Absolutely.
Well, it seems like no matter how many times we ask for that number, we just can't seem to get past the 1 point something%.
You're right. It ain't changed.
No matter how many ways we ask for it. All right, we got to do better, guys. Thanks, Greg. We're going to let you get back to it. You're listening to the Wake Up Show Chicago right here on WVON 1690, hosted by Dr. Larry Ivory, President and CEO of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And we are also sponsored by Wind Creek Casino Southland. And also, I want to give shout out to our co-host for today, Lorenzo T. Hughes. And we want to get this caller to take us home. Hi, Brother Hall.
Hey, my good sister. Let me just say this right quick. I know you guys are short of time, and thanks to Brother Ivory. Listen, what we need to do now, because we get so much good information from you and some of the other shows, and thank you for being the host that listens and try to make a difference opposed to cutting people off. It's imperative that we put what we call a chambers right here, a WVON chambers that deals with the whole piece. You just got through saying it. We can't get past the 1%. Well, that's the trick. That's the trick. Under other administrations, we were there. We knew our percentage. But did we govern over that? From the outside of that, if I could say that and you understand where I'm coming from.
I do.
We don't have them people at the table. And if they're not on at the table, we're on the menu. So we got to go there because we're smart enough to do this. And I thank you so much, sister, you and the staff there, for being the people who you are, but looking out for the interests of our folks. Thank you so much. Much love and respect.
You're welcome, Brother Hall, and thank you. Larry, I know you got something to say about that.
Well, hey, man, it is, LaDonna, it is so important in terms of, and when his question, and it just helped me to kind of refocus. What was his comment so I can get refocused there?
He said that the people that were in office prior to this administration, we knew the numbers. We knew the numbers. Now, I don't know if he was alluding that the numbers were higher, because that has not been the case. That's why you've been fighting with procurement and the sheltered market. But he did say that we knew the numbers prior to this administration. And he was also grateful that we don't cut him off when he calls in. So that was his whole...
I think he was saying the numbers hasn't changed because you mentioned that we're still at that 1%.
Yeah, we're still there.
Line. So have we moved, or what are we doing to move up, or if anything?
We haven't, guys. I think, and I'll be real quick. I know we're running out of time. Is that what's alarming to me is that when I take a look at the data, and the data doesn't lie, okay? The data is there. The data tells us that when it comes to our participation in contracting with municipalities, with federal government, with corporations, our percentages are extremely low in comparison to our contribution. It's like being a slave and being in slavery, contributing a lot, but getting very little payback from it. We have contributed a lot to America, on every level, from fighting in wars to coming back and dying for a country and doing great uh, valor in terms of combat, only to come back and be lynched.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have always given more than our fair share, but gotten less than it back. Our investment return on investment, we got to demand a return on investment, and we got to know the numbers. And we can't allow, whether it be the Department of Corrections, when they do less than 2%, but 54% of the people incarcerated are Black people. I mean, these are things that we cannot and should not let go unchallenged by any administration, whether it be Democrat or Republican. We cannot continue to give so much and get so little back. And we got to change that, and that's really what the chamber, that's what this conference is all about. It's connecting people to bring ideals and concepts together of how we leverage each other to get more of that pie that we deserve, because there's no discrimination when it comes to collecting taxes. And I try to point out to people, the federal government, the administration is spending your money. FEMA, all these agencies that get funded, you're funding ISIS. When they voted for $170 billion for ISIS, that's your tax dollars. They don't just make money. That money comes from you. And you have a right to participate where your dollars have created opportunity. And I'm just simply saying Black people have contributed substantial to this country and gotten very little back. We got to demand greater participation. It's like a bad relationship. At some point in time, you got to say, look, you ain't doing enough. And I'm going to have to find somebody else that can do something for me because you ain't doing anything for me. And so we just have to do things a little bit different, Donna and Lorenzo.
I'm ready. I'm ready. We are ready. And all right, Chicago, as we wrap up another powerful edition of the Wake Up Show Chicago, I want to thank you all for joining us. This is a vital conversation. We did not get to work-life balance, but that's okay because we didn't need to. We needed to get to this other stuff. But make sure you register for the 2025 ILBCC annual conference. Remember, our theme is leveraging each other, and it's your premier opportunity to connect, learn, and grow. So mark your calendars. We're doing this September 9th through the 11th. We're at Wind Creek Casino. Make sure you register. Go to ilbcc.org, and you better go there quickly because we are filling up. We're trying to reach as many people as possible. And don't forget, we are having that matchmaking session where you will sit one to one with a corporation that is ready to do business with you, no matter how big your company is, how small your company is, how many people you have employed. You just got to be ready and packaged. And look up the word capability statement because you're going to need one. All right. Well, that's it for us. Larry, any closing words? I think you closed us out, and I was just telling people what to do.
Hey, Madonna, hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend, and always fight for economic reciprocity and build and leverage each other, support each other, care about each other, and strengthen each other's hand.
That's it. Indeed. That's right. All right. Thank you once again to our sponsor, Wind Creek Casino. Thank you to our co-host, guest, Lorenzo T. Hughes. Yes. All right. We're out of here, guys. ILBCC for life. See you Monday on the afternoon show with Atiba Buchanan right here on WVON.
It's the Wake Up Show every Saturday morning at 9, where change begins with every sunrise.
Welcome to the Wake Up Show Chicago.